Hey, hey, hey. Thank you for joining me for today's episode in the Simple Nutrition Podcast. I am your host, Leonila Campos, and today we are going to talk about the carnivore diet. I have been hearing so much about it lately, maybe so because it's a new year. And so I thought about focusing on that today on this episode. So let's dive into what that is, right? The carnivore diet is basically what it sounds like, right? Just eating meat, just eating animal products, more specifically meat and nothing else. So, if you remember about the five food groups, right, when I talked about having a balanced meal and what that meant on my first episode, right, we have fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and we have our protein and we have high vitamin D, high calcium foods. So when you think about the carnivore diet, you're eliminating all of them. You're just keeping the animal meat, right? And some people added dairy. Some people go into the extremes as to just eating animal flesh. And so the reasoning behind that, for what I've heard in like influencers and like some doctors that have recommended that, is that we should be eating like our ancestors ate, right? I have a problem with that because when we think about how our ancestors ate, it is extremely different from culture to culture, from area in the world to different areas in the world. So if you think about living in Greenland, right, when it's icy, there's not this just ice, right? Their eating behaviors was completely different or is completely different from someone that lives next to the sea, next to the ocean, right? The availability of food is going to be different. And so when someone says, oh, we should be eating the way our ancestors ate, that is just BS, right? Because, okay, you're telling me that, let's say my ancestors are from Mexico, right? That it was an abundance of seeds and fruits and these other amazing foods. And then we were compared maybe someone that lived in or was ancestors were in Alaska, right? Their nutrition, their way that they ate was completely different too. So we cannot give that disclaimer. We cannot give that recommendation of we should eat like our ancestors ate, right? Because we are generalizing the food and the food that everybody should be eating when that is completely incorrect. My other problem here is that a lot of people that are recommending this diet, just like any other diet, have little to no nutrition background, right? That is very concerning to me because how are you going to give a general dietary guideline, a general nutrition guide for the masses, right? Without knowing the conditions, without knowing how that is going to affect their health, but because you're an influencer, because you have a title, that alone, you are taking advantage of people, right? Because they know that you are reliable, quote unquote, or because you are famous, or because you have so many followers, that they should be trusting you, right? But when it comes to nutrition, you need to trust the experts, right? You need to trust registered dietitians. Again, just like in my first episode, we are the food and nutrition experts. And if you live in a state that protects that, right? For example, California, which is where I live, the law protects dietitians in the sense that it says that if someone tells you that they're going to give you a meal plan to help you with your diabetes or an individualized meal plan and it's not a dietitian, that is actually illegal, right? It does say that only a dietitian or a licensed professional, health professional can do that. But I go further to say that even if it's a doctor, right, they have to have years of experience or years of education in nutrition. Because when you look at the curriculum, it's only a few hours, right? But there are some amazing doctors that have extensive education in nutrition and they know, they have nutrition background and that is fine. But anybody else that says, oh, you should follow this diet and it's going to help you, or you follow this meal plan and it's going to help you with your diabetes or with your high cholesterol, or whatever the case may be, you should be really wary of that because that is illegal. Anyway, going back to the carnivore diet, right? So when we think about just eating meat because our ancestors, that's what they ate, blah, 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 it is incorrect, right? It is variant to different areas in the world. But when you really look into what are the first humans ate, right? And again, it's based on different areas, and there's research behind that, and there's articles, right? That I'm actually going to put the links in the show notes so you can reference that, right? That shows that the ancestors or the first humans or the nomadic people um, didn't have access to meat all year round, right? They were hunters and gatherers, and so they would have to go away and hunt and gather and find, an animal and a wild animal, right, that lived, in eating different plants and different things, different foods. It was not just a farm animal. And then the women would stay and gather food, right, for when the husbands or the men came back, hopefully with meat or an animal, that they would have a meal. But meat wasn't available all the time. So when you tell me, oh, we should follow a carnivore diet, that you have to eat meat all day long for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks on, then that it is concerning, right? Because we're eliminating all these other healthy foods, but we're not adding our fiber. And yes, I also heard about that plants are bad for you and we should not have XYZ because our stomachs were not meant for that. When you think about the evolution of our gut, just the evolution as human beings, right? We have changed from when we were nomadic people to now, right? Because the access of food and how food has changed so much that our guts have changed. And so if we go from that to let me just eat now all meat, imagine what that impact is going to have to your body, right? In long term. Now I'm also hearing and seeing, that they're showing their labs and whatever, but just like any diet, right? Just anything that we do for a short period of time, you're not going to see the impact that it's going to have on your health right away. It's going to take a while, right? It's going to take maybe years. But do we really want to see that, right? Do we really want to do something that is going to affect our health long term? To give you an example, there's so much research that shows that if we don't consume enough fiber, which comes from our plant sources, right? Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts, and seeds, that there is a higher increase in colon cancer. But also it affects our gut microbiota, right? Because the fibers are the fuel for the good bacteria that is in our gut. And when you think about fiber, we consume fiber not so much to help us, right? Because there's no calorie or there's caloric value or so per se nutritional value, but it is the fuel for our gut microbiota to keep us, healthy and have great bowel movements to help with our immune system. And so if you eliminate all that, right, now you are starving your microbiota, you're starving your good bacteria. So I am definitely curious to see, okay, for those people that are these influencers that are saying, oh yes, I feel great and look at my labs and I have mental clarity and all these other things that they're claiming. I do I really want to see what their microbiota looks like, right? Now and maybe 2-3 years down the line, and also their markers for colon cancer, right? And so um, it's so amazing, and it amazes me all the time because these diets, they get so popular and trendy for a short period of time, and then something happens, and then they go back into hiding, and then some influencer or someone that goes viral brings it back, and then now we have all these people following it, which could be a health risk, right? And so even if they're saying, oh, this is the way that our ancestors ate, again, this is so incorrect, right? Because one, we have so much access to food, right? and we are also not very active. So if we would think about how our ancestors were, right, they were active all the time. They would go out and hunt, or they would go out and gather, come back and eat enough food that they had, and then maybe there would be days when they didn't have enough food. That's not the case for us anymore, right? We have overabundance of food, and that is the reason why we have issues, right? Is because we not because of how food has changed specifically, but it's because of the overabundance of food, and it's because of um, how easy it is to gather food, right? Like we don't have to go and hunt our food. We don't have to go and find berries or plants that are not poisonous. And so it, it I get so passionate about that because it just amazes me how, again, these influencers are saying, oh yeah, this is helping me, when in reality, when we look at the specific person, right, again, it's another fat diet. It's not going to help, is not going to be healthy for long term, right? It is very unsustainable. Also, when you think about the affordability of buying meat that you can eat all day long for days and days and weeks, right? How affordable is that? And then when you think about, okay, let's just buy some cheap food, cheap meat. Then we think about, okay, how was that meat, or how was that animal raised, right? Again, because of how they were hunting animals, right? They these animals were not farm raised. They were not fed or overfed to account for the massive amount of need. It was just an animal they found, right? And so think about those things: the hormones that are injected into the animals, the food that they feed the animals, right? All that affects our food, how our food is produced. And so what I'm trying to say here is that please don't fall into these claims, and not because someone is famous, right? And they're influencers and they say, oh yeah, I tried that diet and I lost this amount of weight and I feel great and have mental clarity and look at my labs, because that is not you, right? You have to really look at what your body needs, right? You have to look at, how is this sustainable for me? And how this is going to impact my health long term, instead of just being hyped up by these claims that are, to me, they're not real, right? They're working for them, and maybe they have a specific reason why, or maybe they have a monetary or financial reason why they're doing that. And so my takeaway from these, right, is that for you, I want you to really get clear with your goals, right? I want you to understand, when you try to do something in regards to nutrition, why is it that you want to do that, right? And is this sustainable for me? And is this going to be healthy for me, right? Or is it just because you want to be part of something, or part of the hype? And then the other thing too is that, again, you have to work when anything related to nutrition, you have to work with a dietitian, right? You want to make sure that you're getting science-backed information, and the information that is given to you is specifically targeted to your needs, right? um, and that you have follow-ups. If you work with a dietitian and you were not a fit, right, or didn't work well together, there's many other dietitians that you can reach out and figure that out, right? And so please don't fall for from don't fall into these um false claims, right? That you're going to feel great and this is going to be amazing, um because we already know how fat diets work, right? They're so restrictive, and they eliminate all kinds of things, and there's no follow-up plan. We feel horrible, and then now we feel that we have failed because we were not able to sustain it. and all these other negative feelings that come, when we're not able to do something. And if you go back to, okay, why is it that we're doing that, right? There has to be a reason for it, but you also have to have a plan, you to continue to move forward with whatever that goal that you have in terms of nutrition. So please, again, I beg you, don't follow the carnivore diet. Again, this is not for you. You don't need another diet to get where you want to be, right? What you need is to work with a dietitian, so that way you guys can work out a plan that is going to be for you, and that all the factors that are that are part of you are taken into account. So I hope this episode was helpful. I hope you learned the background of the carnivore diet. I didn't want to name anybody specifically, but you already know who are the influencers and who are the people that are promoting it. And then you will have the background or the links to some research, some studies that talk about the different, how our diet has changed, our nutrition has changed from when, thousands of years ago to now. So that way you have an idea what it is, and how, each region has different way of eating for a reason, right? So when someone says we should be eating like our ancestors, we don't have the same ancestors specifically, right? And we have lived in different areas. So that claim it's just madness. So check out the links, right? And shoot me a message if you have any questions. Um, and I can wait to see you at my next episode next week. Thank you so much for showing up. Remember to stay healthy and stay strong. And I will see you next time. Bye bye for now.